I want to start today with a feeling, a very specific, kind of frustrating feeling that I think every single reader, every movie buff out there has had at least once.
Oh, I think I know where you're going.
You're deep into a story. It feels grounded, you know? It feels real. You recognize the coffee shops. You recognize the traffic jams, the way people are stressing about their taxes or their relationships.
It passes the reality check.
Exactly. It completely passes the reality check. But then there's just this one thing, just one tiny nagging detail that is completely and utterly impossible. Maybe there's a library that exists between life and death.
Okay, a midnight library.
Or maybe a guy wakes up every single morning and it is the exact same Tuesday, over and over and over again.
Groundhog Day, of course.
Or, maybe there's a woman who makes a deal with a demon and now she can't be remembered by anyone she ever meets.
And this is where the trouble starts. Because now you have to explain this book to a friend.
Right, you're at dinner, you're all excited, and you say, you have to read this. It's fantasy. And your friend just looks at you, and you can see them roll their eyes because they don't like wizards.
Okay.
They don't care about dragons, and they really aren't interested in the political economy of some made-up kingdom.
And you're sitting there trying to defend yourself, saying, no, it's not that kind of fantasy. But the problem is you don't actually have a better word for it.
It is the ultimate categorization nightmare. It's the literary equivalent of that old, tired internet debate. Is cereal a soup?
Oh, please don't start that war. We'll get letters.
I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm not taking a side. But the analogy works, doesn't it?
I mean, go on.
Technically, you have a liquid, you have solid chunks. It's soup. Technically, you have a magic element in a narrative. It's fantasy. But if you put The Midnight Library by Matt Haig on the same shelf as, say, The Name of the Wind by Patrick Roth, it absolutely
Feels like fruit. Okay, that's a visceral and slightly gross image, but you are absolutely right. The vibe is wrong. The reader expectations are completely wrong.
And that frustration, that gap in our vocabulary is exactly what we're going to unpack today.
We are diving into a concept that might just solve this problem. It's a term proposed in an article for Tor by Diane Callahan, who writes under the name The Quotidian Writer.
And what does she call it?
She calls this missing genre Curio Fiction.
Curio Fiction.
Curio Fiction. Huh. It has a nice ring to it. It sounds a little dusty, a little mysterious, maybe a little odd.
It does. And our mission for this deep dive is to figure out if this label actually holds water. We're going to explore this proposed subgenre. We're going to define its boundaries. We're going to figure out why the labels we currently use, magical realism, low fantasy, why they don't quite fit.
And we're going to look at the specific tropes that make a story curious.
Exactly.
And honestly, I have to admit, I was skeptical first. I really thought, do we really need another subgenre? Aren't there enough boxes already?
It's a fair question. But as I read through the source material for this, I had this moment of clarity. It was like finally finding the right shelf for all those wonderful, weird orphan books that I love.
It's one of those things where once you see the pattern, you can't unstart spotting it in movies, in anime, and the bestsellers at the airport.
So, okay, let's get into it. Curio. Let's start with the word itself. Why that word? Why did Callahan pick curio?
Well, if we go right to the dictionary definition, Merriam-Webster defines a curio as something that's considered novel, rare, or bizarre.
Okay.
It can also refer to an unusual or a bizarre person.
So it's basically just a synonym for weird.
In a sense, yeah. But think about the imagery that word evokes. Don't just think of the definition, think of the object itself. Think of a curio cabinet.
Oh, yeah. Okay. My grandmother had one. It was this glass-fronted wooden case in the hallway, always locked.
And what was inside it?
Just stuff.
Yeah.
Strange little porcelain figures, maybe a weird coin she found in Italy, a seashell from a beach I'd never even heard of. Just a collection of oddities.
Exactly. It's a collection of strange delights. Or think of an old curiosity shop.
Right.
You walk in, and it looks like a normal antique store. It smells like dust and old paper. But tucked away on a shelf, sitting right next to a perfectly normal-looking clock, is something that just doesn't belong.
Something that defies explanation.
That is the whole vibe of this genre. It's an otherwise normal world with one unusual component sitting on the shelf.
It's interesting you mentioned that unusual component because the source material brings up a really fascinating academic term here, something called the novum. Now, when I first read this, I thought it sounded like a prescription drug. Ask your doctor if novum is right for you.
It does have that, doesn't it? But no, it's actually a very important concept in literary. It comes from a scholar named Darko Suva, who wrote a seminal work called Metamorphosis Science. He coined the term novum, which is just Latin for new.
New thing. Academics really know how to dress up simple concepts, don't they?
I mean, that is their job. But Suvin used it to describe the scientifically plausible innovation in a sci-fi story that deviates from reality. So think about Star Trek.
The warp drive.
The warp drive, that is the novum. Or in Jurassic Park.
Cloning technology.
Cloning tech, that is the novum. It is the new thing that enters the world and changes the rule. It creates what Suvin called cognitive estrangement. It makes us look at our own world differently because of this one single.
So Callahan is arguing that Curio Fiction uses the curio in the exact same way that science fiction uses the novum.
Precisely. The curio is the novum. But here's the key difference. In hard sci-fi, the novum is usually technological and, at least pseudoscientifically explained by physics. Right. In curio fiction, the novum is a twist on a realistic world that might not have an explanation at all. It's the real world, but one notch off.
One notch off. That is the perfect way to describe that itch I was talking about at the start. It implies that if you just turn the dial back one click, you'd be reading a biography or a standard drama.
Exactly. And if you turn the dial one click forward, you end up in high fantasy or hard sci. It's a very delicate balance.
So how do we know when we've hit that sweet spot? Callahan breaks this down into 5 defining features. And I want to walk through these because I think they really help solidify what we're talking about.
Let's do it.
But I want to challenge a few of them as we go because some of these lines feel a little blurry to me.
Good. They should be. Let's start with feature number 1.
Feature number 1, a real world setting.
This is the big one. It's non-negotiable. The story has to be grounded in our reality. It can be contemporary, it can be historical, it could even be the near future. But it must be recognizable as our world.
So, to be perfectly clear, no Middle-earth, no Westeros, no galaxy far, far away.
No. If you have to include a map at the beginning of your book to explain where the Kingdom of Zephyr is in relation to the Mountains of Doom, it is not Curio.
That's second world fantasy.
We're high fantasy, yeah. This is primary world, our world.
Okay, but what about something that feels dreamlike? Like, what about surrealist fiction? I'm thinking of something like Kafka or some of the weirder literary stuff where reality itself is kind of bendy.
That's a great distinction to make. In surrealism, the world itself might operate on a kind of dream logic. Walls might breathe. Time might flow backwards for no reason. In Curio Fiction, the world operates on the logic of human experience.
So physics works?
Physics works, gravity works, the economy works, people have to pay their rent.
The source mentions The Lie Tree by Frances Hardinge as a key example here. Have you read this?
I have. It's a fantastic, really brilliant.
So it's set in the Victorian era.
Yeah, and it takes place on a fictional island, sure. But that island adheres to strict Victorian social norms. The clothes are historically accurate. The gender dynamics, unfortunately, are historically accurate. The science of the time.
So it feels real.
Completely. The only thing that is different, tree.
Right, the tree that delivers hidden truths to you if you tell it a lie.
Exactly. Everything else about that world is strictly realistic. If you removed that tree, you would just have a historical drama about a brilliant young girl trying to be a scientist in a man's world. That groundedness is essential.
Why? Why is it so?
Because it provides the contrast for the magic. The mundane makes the fantastic.
Okay, that leads us perfectly into feature number 2. A story-defining speculative element.
This is the curio itself, the weird thing on the shelf.
It is. It's the strange place, the person with the power, or the mysterious item. But here's the crucial distinction, and this is where I think people often get confused with magical realism. In Curio Fiction, the magic is perceived as unusual or surprising by the characters.
Yes, this is what I call the reaction test.
The reaction test.
How do the characters react to the magic? In magical realism, think 100 Years of Solitude or like Water for Chocolate, the magic is often treated as, well, mundane.
Right.
If a woman cries tears that literally flood the entire house, the characters don't call a scientist. They don't panic. They get buckets and they mop it up.
It's just woven into the fabric of their reality.
It is. Whereas in Curio Fiction...
In Curio Fiction, the characters react the way you or I would react.
Absolutely. If you woke up tomorrow and realized you were reliving the same day over and over, you wouldn't just shrug and eat your toast.
You'd freak out.
Yeah.
You'd think you were having a stroke.
Yeah.
You'd test it. You'd try to figure out what was happening.
Like in the book, If I Stay by Gail Form, the main character, Mia, is in a coma after a car accident.
Right, and she's having an out-of-body experience.
Exactly. She's floating there, watching her family weep over her body. She doesn't think, oh, this is a normal Tuesday. She is grappling with the impossibility and the horror of her. She is estranged from her own life.
So the magic is a disruption to the norm, not a part of the norm.
That's
okay. Feature number 3, and I love this term. Hand-wavium.
It's a classic writer term. The more technical name for this feature would be the lack of a global system.
This is the anti-Brandon Sanderson rule.
It really is. And look, I love Brandon Sanderson. I love a good hard magic system where I know exactly how many grams of metal I need to burn to push a coin across the room.
Of course.
But that creates a certain type of story. A story about mastery, about mechanics, about solving puzzles with a set of rules.
Curio Fiction takes the complete opposite approach.
It does. In Curio Fiction, the author just kind of waves their hence hand hand wave.
It's the don't worry about it method of world build.
We often never learn how the oddity exists or if it exists anywhere else in the world. Taken 5 Years by Rebecca Searle, the protagonist has a dream where she jumps 5 years forward in time for exactly 1 hour.
And then she snaps back to her own time.
And then she snaps back. Does she find a time machine in her closet? No. Does she discover she's a secret wizard from a long line of time-traveling wizards? No.
It just happens.
It just happens. We never learn the mechanics. We only learn that it happened, and that seeing this 1 hour of her future completely changed her perception of the present.
So the why doesn't matter. The what now matter.
Perfectly put. If the character spent the whole book trying to figure out the particle physics of the time jump, it would become a sci-fi thriller. By ignoring the how, the author forces us to focus on the human.
Feature number 4, human-centric focus.
This is a really useful one for differentiating Curio from, say, urban fantasy.
Because urban fantasy usually involves vampires, werewolves, fae, these hidden societies living within our own.
Right. If you have Twilight or The Mortal Instrument, you have entire ecosystems of non-human entities. You have complex politics between the vampire clans and the werewolf packs.
The Curio Fiction is just...
It's almost always focused purely on human capabilities and human problems. The source mentions The Cartographers by Peng Shepherd.
Which is all about map.
It is. It has a huge speculative element, these phantom settlements that appear on maps and can trap people, but it's human-centered. There are no secret wars between goblins and trolls. It's just people dealing with a strange, inexplicable phenomenon.
Got it. And finally, feature number 5, which I think is really the heart of it all, effects over mechanics.
This ties right back to the handwavium. The story is not interested in the physics of the magic. It's interested in the sociology and psychology of it. The Curio is a thought experiment.
It's a catalyst.
Yes. It usually targets the big human question: time, memory, love, death, free will. The source mentions the movie The Man from Earth. Have you seen that?
I saw it years and years ago. It's basically just a bunch of guys sitting in a living room talking.
That is the entire movie. A professor gathers his colleagues for a farewell party and tells them, I am 14,000.
And that's it.
That's it. There are no flashbacks, no special effect, no de-aging CGI, just a conversation. The Curio, his immortality, is just a prompt to discuss history, religion, and the human condition.
Or another example they bring up is the booth at the end.
Oh, that's a great one. A guy sits in a diner booth, and if you do a task for him, whatever you want.
And the show isn't about how he does. Is he the devil? Is he an ain't God?
The show doesn't care. It's about what a desperate father is willing to do to save his sick child. It's about the cost of desire.
So the magic is there to raise the stakes on a very human.
Precisely. The Curio intensifies the desires and the fears that the characters already possess. It just puts them in a pressure cooker and turns up.
Okay, so we've got the definition. Real world, one strange thing, no explanation needed, focus on humans and relationships. Now let's talk about what these stories actually look like. The source identifies 10 specific tropes that show up constantly in Curio Fiction. And I bet as we go through these, you at home are going to start shouting movie titles at your speakers.
Oh, these are going to be very, very familiar.
Let's start with my personal favorite category, time and repetition. And the big daddy of them all, trope number 1, the time.
Groundhog Day has to be.
It's the classic. Narcissistic weatherman, stuck in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, relives the same day until he gets it right.
But let's look at why this is such a quintessential Curio Fiction trope. Why do we keep telling this story? We have Russian Doll, Palm Springs, Happy Death Day, Edge of Tomorrow. Why does this trope stick around?
Well, it feels like a video game, in a way. You get infinite retries. You can learn the patterns.
It is, but philosophically, it's about the treadmill of self-improvement. The loop forces the character to realize that external circumstances don't matter. Bill Murray in Groundhog Day tries everything. He tries hedonism, he tries suicide, he tries crime. Nothing works.
He can't escape by finding a magic spell or a secret button.
No, he escapes by changing his internal state.
He has to become a better person. He has to learn empathy.
He does. It's a secular purgatory. The loop itself creates a closed system where the only variable you can change is yourself. That's why it fits effects over mechanics so perfect. The mechanics of the loop are...
Then there's trope number 2, small-scale time travel.
This is distinct from the time loop. This is usually linear, but messy. And notice the key phrase, small scale.
Right. We aren't talking about Avengers, Endgame, or the Terminator. We aren't saving the world from Skynet.
We're usually just trying to save a relationship or understand one.
The time traveler's wife is the gold standard.
Absolutely. The main character, Henry, has chrono displacement disorder. It's treated almost like a genetic disorder or chronic, can't control it. He sneezes, and he ends up in 1994 for 10 minutes.
And the real tragedy of that book, the thing that makes it so painful, is that he can't fix anything. He can't change the past.
That's the brilliance of the limitation. In most big sci-fi, time travel is about agents. I will go back and kill Hitler. I will go back and buy Apple stock.
Right.
In Curio Fiction, time travel is often about a profound lack of... Henry goes back, sees his mom die in a car crash again and again, and is powerless to stop it.
It completely emphasizes the inevitable nature of time.
It transforms a flashy sci-fi concept into a meditation on grief, memory, and waiting. Brutal, but it works so well.
Trope number 3 takes a different spin on time. Alternate lives or the multiverse.
But again, you have to keep it curio. We aren't talking about Spider-Man. Across the Spider-Verse with 1,000 different dimensions and canon events and all that.
No, this is much more intimate. It's the personal what if.
The source brings up Life After Life by Kate Atkinson.
This book absolutely broke. Just shattered me.
It's a masterpiece, utterly.
The protagonist, Ursula, is born in 1910. She dies. The story resets. She is born again. She survives infancy. She drowns at the beach. Resets. She dies in the Blitz. Resets. She explores dozens of different paths within one single life.
And it focuses entirely on her. It asks, what if I had turned left instead of right that day? What if I hadn't gone to that party? It allows the author to explore how context shapes identity. Are you the same person if you survive the war versus if you die?
It's just a stunning concept. Okay, speaking of identity, that brings us to the next category. Identity and physical form. And trope number 4, the body swap.
The Freaky Friday trope, a classic.
It's a comedy staple for sure, but is there a deeper meaning there? Or is it just, about seeing your mom act like a teenager for 90 minutes?
Well, ideally there's a deeper meaning. Think about the social function of it. It is an empathy.
Walk a mile in their shoes. Literally.
Literally. You are trapped in someone else's life, but you bring your own conscience, your own thought. It forces a collision between your internal identity and the external world's treatment.
And it's usually a parent and child, or a husband and wife.
Yeah.
Two people who are in conflict.
Exactly. The curio, the swap, is just a mechanism to force them to communicate and understand each other. If a mother actually has to go through a day of high school as her daughter, she stops judging and starts understanding.
Trope number 5 is a much heavier version, reincarnate.
This is often used to examine the persistence of the soul, or how identity carries across vast stretches of time. The source mentions The Years of Rice and Salt by Kim Stanley Robinson.
That's a massive book. It's an alternate history, right?
It is. The what if is a huge one. What if the Black Plague killed 99% of Europe instead of a third?
Wow.
So European civilization is effectively wiped out, and China and the Islamic world become the dominant global powers.
That sounds like straight sci-fi or old history. Where's the curio element?
The curio is the narrative device. We follow a specific group of souls, a cast of characters denoted by the first letter of their name, who are reincarnated over and over again across.
You see them as peasants in one life, and then
as sultans, as scientists, as explorers in the next. We see how the world changes, but through the eyes of the same.
So it connects the deeply personal to the epic historical. It anchors a massive, sprawling timeline to a few recognizable human spirits.
Exactly.
Trope number 6, unusual aging or immortality.
This is where we get the curious case of Benjamin Button, aging in reverse. Or a more recent example, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by Schwab.
Addie LaRue is such a perfect example of the curio because her immortality has this terrible, heartbreaking catch.
The catch, the limitation, is almost always more important than the power itself. She lives forever, but no one can remember her.
Right. As soon as she leaves the room, the people inside forget she was ever there.
That limitation is genius. It strips away everything we use to define ourselves, our relationships, our impact on others, our legacy.
It forces the reader to ask, what is a life if no one witnesses it? If you can't leave a mark on the world, do you even exist?
It takes a classic superpower immortality and turns it into a profound study of loneliness.
Okay, moving on to powers and curse. Trope number 7, telekinesis and clairvoyance.
Now, you have to tread carefully here. Because if the character with telekinesis puts on a mask and starts fighting crime, it's a superhero story. That's a different genre.
So Matilda, by Roald Dahl, is the counterexample.
Matilda is the perfect curio example. She moves things with her mind. But is she saving the city from aliens? Is she joining the Avengers?
No, she's pranking her horrible dad and terrorizing her evil headmistress.
It's about a little girl finding agency in a world where she has none. The power is a metaphor for her intellect and her resilience. De Mesmal.
Or what about The Dead Zone by Stephen King? Johnny Smith wakes up from a coma with clairvoyance.
That one leans a little towards thriller, for sure. But the core of the story is the personal tragedy, the isolation. He touches someone and sees their death. That doesn't make him a hero. It makes him a pariah. It ruins his life. Power is a curse.
That brings us to trope number 8, singular spell, or as the source calls it, The screw you in particular term.
Yeah, I love that name. It's so descriptive. This is when one person's life is turned completely upside down for a short, specific time in order to confront a single flaw.
Liar, liar. It has to be the most famous one.
Liar, liar. Jim Carrey's character can't lie for 24 hours. Why? Because his son made a
It's simple, it's contained, and the effect is what the source calls social lubrication removal.
That's a great term.
We realize how much our entire society runs on these little white lies, these polite fiction, and when you take that ability away from him, his life completely implodes.
Or Instant Karma by Marissa Meyer. A girl gains the ability to deal out immediate karma around her. Punish the bad drivers, punish the rude customers.
That sounds like a dream come true.
It sounds great until she tries to use it on a guy she's interested in, and it backfires on her spectacularly. It forces her to realize that she's been judgmental and self-righteous. The spell is a mirror held up to her.
Finally, we have the category of technology and the beyond. Trope number 9, the afterlife.
This is a fun one, the good place.
I love that, but I never really thought of it as curio fiction before this.
It fits perfectly, though. It's set in the afterlife, which is definitely speculative, but it is tied intrinsically to real-world ethics and philosophy.
It literally turns abstract ideas, Kantian ethics, utilitarianism, into concrete settings and plot points.
The trolley problem becomes an actual trolley with real blood and guts. Exactly. It's a curio setting designed specifically to be a laboratory to test human morality.
And the final one, trope number 10, relationship sci-fi.
This is where the line blurs a little between sci-fi and curio. The key difference is that the technology is strictly there for emotional exploration. Eternal sunshine of the spotlight.
Memory erasure, a classic.
Yeah. The writer of that movie, Charlie Cox, explicitly said he wanted to downplay the sci-fi elements as much as possible. He didn't want it to be a thriller about a corrupt corporation stealing memories.
No, he wanted it to be about the relationship.
Exact. If you could erase the pain of a break, and if you did, would you be doomed to make the same mistakes all over again?
Or that movie Timer. There's a device, like a watch, that counts down to the exact second you meet your soulmate.
That's a perfect curio. One piece of technology totally integrated into society that completely changes how people date and love. It removes the romance of the chase and replaces it with this constant ticking anxiety.
The source also adds a little bonus note here about Japanese media, which I thought was really insightful.
Yes, this whole one-notch off vibe is incredibly common in anime and manga. It feels much more native to that storytelling.
Like Fruits Basket, you hug someone of the opposite sex, you turn into one of the animals from the Chinese zodiac.
Or Ranma 12, cold water changes your gender. Hot water changes you back. Or think of the Makoto Shinkai films like Weathering, where a girl can control the weather.
Or Your Name, which is a body swap story.
Right.
So why is it so much more common there? What's the thinking?
Well, the source suggests it might stem from the Shinto tradition. The idea that spirits and magic, kami, exist in nature right alongside us. The barrier between the magical and the mundane is thinner in a lot of Japanese storytelling than it is in...
That makes sense. In the West, we like to keep our magic in a separate box called fantasy.
Exactly. In Japan, the magic is often just there, part of the world, a little curio sitting on the shelf of reality.
That's fascinating. So, okay, we have the definition, we have all these tropes, but I can hear some people, maybe the literary critics in the audience, saying, why do we need another label? Why can't we just call this magical realism or low fantasy?
It's the war of labels. And honestly, definitions matter. They matter because they set expectations. If you sell someone a soup and you give them cereal, they're going to be annoyed even if they like cereal.
So let's tackle the big one first. Magical realism. Why is it wrong, or at least problematic, to call the Midnight Library magical realism?
It's really a matter of respect and history. Magical realism is a term that is historically specific to post-colonial literature. We're talking about writers like Gabriel Garcia Marquez in Colombia, Salman Rushdie in India, Toni Morrison in the United States.
It's dealing with the aftermath of colonialism with histories that have been suppressed.
Right. In those stories, the magic is often a way to express a reality that is too complex, too painful, or too contradictory for strict realism. It resists Western rationality. And crucially, as we said before, the magic is treated as mundane. It's normal.
So when Western authors write a fun, high-concept story about a time-traveling cafe and someone slaps a magical realism sticker on it,
it's often criticized as appropriating a very specific literary term that belongs to a different cultural movement. It washes away the political context. And besides that, it's just inaccurate.
because of the reaction test.
Exactly. In Curio Fiction, the magic is surprising. It disrupts the world. In magical realism, it is...
Okay, what about fabulous in other times?
Fabulism is closer, but it tends to be related to myths and fable. Think Alice in Wonderland or Italo Calvino's Invisible City. It tends to be much more surreal. Prose itself is often abstract.
Whereas Curio Fiction is grounded. It feels like a Netflix drama. not a fever dream.
Precise style is realist, even if the premise...
And low fantasy. I feel like this one is the most common mislabeling.
Low fantasy is just a mess of a term, honestly. Technically, it just means fantasy set in the primary world, or where magic is scarce. But people use it to describe Game of Thrones just because there aren't that many wizards around.
And the term low implies a value judgment, doesn't it? Like, it's less important or less imaginative than high fantasy.
It totally does. And what about light speculative fic? That's another one.
That one implies it's lighthearted, which is just not accurate.
Not at all. Curio fiction can be horror. It can be deeply tragic. The Time Traveler's Wife is not light. Heart-wrenching. The film The Brass Teapot, where a couple has to hurt themselves to get money from a magic teapot, is body.
So curio fiction really does fill a utility gap. It describes something specific that these other labels don't.
It does. It has real utility. For readers, it signals an easier entry point into speculative fiction. If you are intimidated by maps of fictional kingdoms and 500-page glossaries of made-up language, curio fiction says, hey, come on in. It's just like your world, but with one cool twist.
And for authors and publishers, it prevents bad reviews.
This is a huge point. If someone buys The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue expecting a hard magic system that explains the physics of immortality, they are going to be disappointed.
They'll leave a one-star review saying, the magic makes no sense and the author never explains it.
But if they know going in that it's curio fiction, they know the magic isn't supposed to, the explanation isn't the point.
It sets expectations correctly. It's like the word noir. If I tell you a movie is noir, you expect moral ambiguity, long shadows, and a cynical detective. You don't expect a happy ending with a musical number.
Exactly. Curio tells you to expect a focus on effects, not cause.
Okay, so we knew what it is. We know what it is. Now let's get our hands dirty. Let's talk about the anatomy of a curio story. How are these things actually built?
If you look under the hood of most of these stories, there is a very good structure. It almost always starts with a what-if question.
It's high concept, easy to pitch.
Very high concept. You can explain the entire premise in one sentence. What if a portal existed that put you inside John Malkovich's head for exactly 50 minutes?
Being John Malkovich, a classic.
What if a love potion made everyone in the world except the person you want fall in love with?
Ooh, that's good. That's an absolute mess waiting to happen.
But the most important part of the anatomy, and I cannot stress this enough, is the limitation, the rules.
The limitations, why are they so important? Why not just give the characters unlimited power? Wouldn't that be more fun?
Because unlimited power is boring. There's no conflict. Limitations give the story its internal logic, and more importantly, they create the conflict. They force the character to be creative.
The Source gives a perfect case study for this. The novel Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi.
This book is an absolute masterclass in limitations. So the premise is simple. You can travel in time in this one specific cafe in Tokyo.
Sounds powerful. I could go fix all my mistakes.
But the author handcuffs you immediately. Rule number 1, you can only travel through time while sitting in one specific seat in the cafe.
Okay.
Rule number 2, you can only go back to meet someone who has also at some point been in that cafe. Rule number 3, you cannot change the present. No matter what you say or do, the future remains exactly the same.
And the kicker.
You have to return to the present before your cup of coffee gets cold.
And if you don't,
you turn into a ghost and are stuck in that seat forever.
But wait,
Yeah.
if you can't change the present, what's the point? Why go back at all? That seems useless.
That is the whole point of the book. Since you can't change the outcome, the person still dies or they still break up with you, the only thing you can change is yourself, your understanding.
So you go back to say the goodbye you never got to say?
Yeah.
Or you go back to finally understand why they left?
It forces the entire story to be purely emotional. It strips away all the action movie potential of time travel. It shifts the focus from saving the future to healing the heart. That is curio fiction in a nutshell.
Another great example of limitations is the TV show Pushing Daisies, which we mentioned earlier. The main character, Ned, can revive the dead with a touch.
That's basically infinite power over life and death. But rule 1, if he touches them the second time, they die again forever. And rule 2, if he keeps them alive for more than 60 seconds, someone else nearby has to die to balance the scale.
And those rules create the entire premise of the show. He brings his childhood sweetheart, Chuck, back to life. He loves her. But now he can never, ever touch her, not even a handshake.
It creates a romance based entirely on longing and restraint. The curio, the power with its rules, creates the entire relationship dynamic.
Which brings us to the next anatomical part, the relationship focus.
The curio shouldn't just be a cool trick. It has to heighten a pre-existing flaw or a relationship dynamic. It has to mean something.
Flowers for Algernon.
Oh, a devastating example. Charlie Gordon undergoes a scientific procedure to increase his intelligence. The curio, but the story isn't really about the science. It's about how...
Right. When his IQ is low, he's ridiculed and patient. When he becomes a super genius, he's isolated because he's intellect superior to everyone around.
It highlights the tragedy of how our society treats those we deem lesser or different. The Curio just amplifies his isolation at both ends of the spectrum.
Or a book like In the Sight of You. The main character is clairvoyant, but it acts as a barrier to romance because he knows the exact date and time his new girlfriend will die.
It takes the general fear of loss, which every couple has, and makes it literal, specific, and immediate. How can you build a future with someone when you know exactly when it ends?
Okay, I'm feeling inspired. I think it's time we try to build one from scratch. The source material actually has a little workshop section, and I want to run through it.
Let's construct a concept.
So the formula is 1, the curio, the speculative element. 2, the limitations, the rules. 3, the setting, our real world. And 4, the relationship or social focus.
Got it.
The source breaks down. It's a Wonderful Life using this formula, which I think is a really helpful way to see it in action.
Sure. So, setting. Upstate New York during the Great Depression. Very grounded, very...
Curio, an angel named Clarence who can show you an alternate timeline where you were never born.
Limitation. He only appears when George Bailey is at his absolute breaking point, and he can't actually change reality. He can only show the what if. He's a guide, not a miracle worker.
And the relationship focus. A deeply depressed businessman and his relationship to his family and his entire community.
Put it all together, and the concept is an angel helps a suicidal man by showing him what life would have been like for his town if he had never existed. Boom. Perfect Curio Fiction.
So if we were to make one, okay, let's think about themes and social norms. The source suggests using the setting to amplify the curio.
Right. Like in the novel The Beautiful Ones, the power of telekinesis is placed in a stuffy, high society 19th century setting, so it immediately becomes an issue of class, of etiquette, of propriety.
So the idea is, if you have a power that is messy or loud or chaotic, put it in a setting that demands quiet and order.
Exact. The setting creates the friction. The source gives a great example. What if you had a power where people's clothes just appear when you point at them?
Okay, that's just chaotic and kind of silly.
It is. But now, put that power in the hands of a teenager at a very conservative, very strict church camp.
Oh, no. Oh, that's immediately a much better story.
Now you have a story. It's not just a silly power anymore. It's about shame, modesty, rebellion, hypocrisy, breaking social norms. The setting creates all the conflict.
Okay, I've got one. Let's try this. Curio. You can hear the background music of people's lives, like a movie score. You know if someone is sad, or if they're secretly a villain, or if they're falling in love, just by the music that plays in your head when they walk into a room.
Ooh, I like that. The soundtrack ability is very sensory, very unique.
Now, limitation. If we just leave it like that, it's too easy. The character basically becomes a human lie detector.
Right, it's too powerful, so maybe they can't turn it off, ever.
Good. It's overwhelming in crowds. Just a horrible cacophony of different genres clashing.
And here's a harder limit. You can't hear your own music. You never know what your own emotional score is. You have no idea if you're the hero or the villain of your own story.
Oh, that's good. That creates a deep fundamental insecurity. Okay, now, setting. We need a setting to amplify the tension. Where is the absolute worst place to have this power?
Somewhere where everyone is lying about how they really feel. What about a high-stakes corporate law firm or a political campaign?
A law firm.
Perfect.
Everyone is wearing an expensive suit and a confident smile, pretending to be a shark, but you can hear the Jaws theme coming from one person and a weeping violin from another.
And the relationship focus. A junior lawyer just trying to survive, trying to navigate the brutal office politics and find a mentor. They're trying to figure out who to trust.
And they meet the most successful, most feared senior partner in the entire firm. Everyone is terrified of him.
But when our protagonist meets him...
Silence.
Silence.
He has no music, no score whatsoever.
That's a great hook. Is he a sociopath? Is he just an emotional void? Or is he the only truly honest person?
That's a silent partner. Coming to bookstores in 2026.
I'd read that. It works because it fits all the criteria. It's grounded, it's human-centric, the magic is totally hand-waved, and it focuses on relationships and perception.
It really is a fun framework to play with. It makes you look at the world differently. You just start asking what if about everything.
And that's the real beauty of it. Curio Fiction isn't really about escaping reality. It's about looking at our reality through a slightly distorted lens in order to see it more clear.
So let's recap. Curio Fiction is one notch off reality. It's not high fantasy. It's not hard sci-fi. It's the fantastic, sitting right next to the mundane on the shelf.
It uses its novum, that new thing, that curio, to explore human relations. And it almost always focuses on the effects of the magic rather.
And it's defined by these familiar tropes we see all the time. Time loops, body swap, singular curses, and small-scale grounded superpowers.
And most importantly, it's a useful label. It's a tool that helps us as readers, as writers, as viewers, find the stories that scratch that very specific, very particular.
So here is our call to action for you, the list. We want you to be a genre detective. The next time you're watching a movie or reading a book and you get that feeling, that one notch off feeling, ask yourself, is this Curio Fiction?
Does it fit the 5 criteria? Is it the real world, but with one strange, unexplained element?
And if it is, use the term. Tell your friend. Let's help Diane Callahan coin this subgenre. I genuinely want to walk into my local bookstore and see a Curio Fiction table.
That is the dream.
Before we go, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. It's based on a prompt from the source.
And this is a tough one. It's really personal.
If you had to write a Curio story about yourself, what is the one what-if question, the one power, the one curse that would force you to confront your own biggest flaw?
Not a power to make you cool or strong, a power that forces you to look directly.
Like the compulsive liar in Liar Liar who is forced to tell the or the judgmental girl in Instant Karma who has to face her own hypocrisy. What is the Curio that would break you open?
That's something to mull over on your commute home.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Keep reading, keep watching, and stay curious.
See you next time.